This episode was recorded last fall and will be airing more new episodes that we recorded before hiatus every Thursday through Halloween. Also, check out Dan's stand-up special, Dance Fatty Dance, on YouTube and subscribe to his new pod, Burbs Bros, with Sean Donnelly. Enjoy the show.
Listen, asshole!
No, you listen, you little bitch. You hang up on me again, I'll gut you like a fish, understand? Yeah.
Is this some kind of joke?
More of a game, really.
Welcome, everybody, to the It Couple. I'm your host, Dan St. Germain. I'm here with my beautiful wife, Sara Jo. How are you, Sara?
Hi, Dan. I'm good. How are you?
I'm pumped, man. We're doing Scream today, which means, you know, I'm from Not Jim and Sam. You know, I'm from WWE. Buddy of mine, he's hilarious, and we're lucky to have him. And a huge Scream fan. He brought this up. We were excited about it. Usually, they bring someone up, and we're like, well, we gotta pick something else because no one's gonna listen to this. But Sam knows. Sam is radio man, so he knows what's good radio, and that is us talking about Scream.
And the original Scream. Let's just point that out. Not one of the many.
No, not one of the silly sequels.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm glad you picked this, Sam.
Thank you, Sam.
You said this to me. It's the perfect movie. So before we even get into that, why is this movie perfect?
Yeah, it's just one of those very rare movies where everything works, everything has a purpose, everything is interesting. You're on the ride from the beginning to the absolute end. There's this amazing fulfillment after going on the journey with everything. Everything's cohesive and makes sense. It's just, there's I have a very small handful of, oh my God, this is a perfect movie. There's no improving that needs to be done. Everything is great. And especially in horror, Scream it's a perfect movie.
Yeah,
it is.
It is a perfect movie. And it's one of the movies too that was a perfect movie that's a great movie that's also cool. You know,
for sure.
I feel like this, Pulp Fiction, maybe Oppenheimer and Barbie now, those kind of I haven't seen Barbie, but I mean, you actually had my favorite Barbie review, Sam, by the way, which was it was good. It wasn't too high or low,
right? Yeah,
know?
Everybody had to have the hot take, and it was well, what if it was just it was fine? I mean, I don't know if I'll see it again, but I didn't.
That's how I felt too.
It was good.
Yeah, I loved it. I know we're not discussing Barbie right now. I loved it. I thought it was great. But I'm good. You know,
I'm afraid to see it because I just don't want to release a video like Ben Shapiro and talk about how it's the worst thing that I've ever seen.
No, it's the best thing you've ever seen.
You've seen footage of the second tower, right? I mean, there's definitely worse footage than Barbie.
Dan always has to bring 9/11 into it. It's his love language.
I was there. I was in a classroom on TV watching it on TV. So I was there.
Oh God!
All right. Well, let's get to. We're starting to frame our episodes now with how does this movie tell you to stay alive? And I will say the only way this isn't a perfect movie is if this was an important rule, my rule that I gave, because there really isn't any rules on how the rules on how they even though it's a movie known for don't break the rules, all of Randy's rules: you can't have sex, you can't have drugs or alcohol, never say you'll be right back. Our leads, Gail Weathers, Sydney, and Randy all violate these rules during this movie. So, I think the real rule is just make a good movie. But there isn't really there isn't she's big tits don't run through the front door, and then her big tits end up running through the front door at some point,
and up the stairs, and all over.
Yeah. And we're medium tits. I don't know where she is.
I haven't
on the rest of the cast. I haven't performed a mammogram lately. So So is the lesson really don't take these movies seriously, since people both follow the rules and don't follow the rules and die no matter what.
So the only real rule, and I didn't even know you were going to ask this question until we just started, but like I'm glad you did, because this is one of the few movies that, especially after watching all of them, my takeaway was, and I think about it every single time at night, I take the dog out in the front yard on a leash because it's night. I don't want her to run around the backyard and everything. But every time I walk out the front door, I never take my eyes off the door. And I don't know, if you watch this movie, there are so many instances of that killer getting into the house because he tricks somebody to come outside. And then they walk outside and they look out into the yard, into the, they're screaming, they're doing this. Just turn around and look at the door. You left the door open. Just don't leave an open door unattended. That's the rule. Do not leave open doors unattended.
This actually
that
really
checks. That definitely checks out.
And a metaphor for our border, really.
That's a different podcast we host.
Oh, sorry.
It's called Get Out of Our Country.
Sorry. Me and Glenn Beck are going to be yes-anding on my new podcast.
I think the movie also had, I remember when it came out, and because I was in high school, and it was, obviously everybody that's in this movie is not. I think Jamie Kennedy was the youngest actor, but it just made sense for the times that a lot of these people were newer, mostly from television. Like Courtney Cox was seen as playing Monica on Friends and really had to urge the filmmakers to let her be Gail. And I did find out that Drew Barrymore I found this out through the internet. Thank you so much. Not like Wes Craven called me before he died. He's dead,
Thanks,
right?
ScreenRant.com.
Thanks, Wiki Hora. No, but Drew Barrymore was supposed to play Sydney, and then she had a scheduling conflict, and that's when she decided to play Casey, and thus started.
I thought that it was purpose, because I didn't read that. I read that the whole thing was like, oh, if we cast her, she'll be like the Janet. No one will expect that she's going to be killed.
It seems like,
but maybe that's just.
But that starts all the Scream franchises, right? The first person is always
no, I know,
killed.
But when they cast that, that was purposeful. They were like, all right, let's have a big star die up front.
I do believe, based on my findings and research, that Drew was originally cast. I could be 100%. I could have read
I knew that they were thinking of her. I just thought that it was a conscious choice.
Well, either way, Neve Campbell's great. She's great.
I guess we're breaking up, guys.
It's over.
I also have done internet research, and I watched a YouTube video that said the exact same thing, that Wes Craven didn't turn down the movie, wasn't going to do it, and then decided to do it because he found out Drew Barrymore was attached to the script. And they said that 6 weeks before shooting started, Drew was like, I want to play Casey instead of Sydney, that she was the original Sydney. Because originally that opening scene, and it was like a reference to when a stranger calls. Right, when a stranger calls. And then they were like, oh, well, I guess we can also do this Psycho thing because Drew Barrymore's a huge star and we can just kill her right away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that, it just would have been so weird, as Sydney, and, let's just say, they'd had Neve Campbell play, Drew. I can't see anyone playing this role but Drew Barrymore. It's it's one of those, and even, since that movie, they've tried to have, the opening shock kill, and, nothing comes close to this. And I think part of it, too, is just she's so bubbly and, charming and
likable, and
and then it's also this weird thing, I think people watching her are like, okay, I guess we can think she's hot now because we've known her from E.T. forever.
And she did Poison Ivy. That was a racy movie.
Yeah, she did Poison
true.
Ivy. That's true.
Very
That's
racy.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Poison Ivy is so close to being a Skinamax softcore porn, and I
feel like that's where I saw it as a child. It gave me funny feelings below. You know what I mean? I was like, this is weird. Oh, it's
James Spader?
No, God, no. It's an older actor, David. Fuck.
Duchovny? No, I'm just
I'll find it.
I don't know. All right. Well, notes before we get into the actual movie, but yes, it was directed by Wes Craven, written by Kevin Williamson. Kevin Williamson got the idea for this after seeing a documentary about the Gainesville Ripper, Danny Rolling. Have you ever seen when he's got like one of my favorite serial killer court moments ever, where he's like one of those guys, like all these guys, like they fall in love during the trial, you know, they meet like some really cute chick who's like for whatever reason into sociopaths. And
there's a lot of cute chicks that are actually into sociopaths.
I guess there's a lot, yeah. And he just starts singing to her during the trial, like as a solo, and it's so embarrassing also for the victims' families to be like, this is the guy who killed my fucking oh man, because it's like, hey, did you watch Love Is Blind, Sam?
Yeah.
Okay, you know the last.
I know what you're bringing.
You know the last season. There was that guy who was the lawyer whose mom was like a stripper.
Yeah.
And he sings, and it's like the most uncomfortable moment. This is exactly what Danny Rolling does. Actually, Danny Rolling is less uncomfortable than that guy. I will say that. But
but the families are looking, going like, you catastrophically changed our lives forever. And this is you.
And now I've got to hear your
Here's a
firework.
love song, and then they're going to get it. Like, if they got it stuck in their head and they're like humming it around the house, and they're like, killed our child.
The movie did notoriously itself inspire the murder of Ashley Murray. There's actually a documentary about her killers and it's more about like whether or not life without parole is justified if somebody's under 18. And it's interesting because they interview the two guys that are killed her, and you see like one guy I think has changed, and the other guy is still a sociopath. So it's interesting to see like how the criminal justice system works. But anyway, just going through some more facts. The opening scene with Drew Barrymore is an homage to When a Stranger Calls. The calls are coming from inside. There's a lot of
inside the house.
A lot of homages. Like for instance, also, there's a moment right in the beginning, which I was gonna wait, but they say like the Drew Barrymore's parents say, "Get in the car to the Mackenzies," which is a Halloween Easter egg. That's the same line from Halloween when they discover their daughter murdered. So, Bob Weinstein hated The Mask, thinking it wasn't scary.
Yeah, he didn't think it was scary enough. They also were going to do it all in white, but they didn't want it to be confused with the KKK.
Smart.
Right?
Because I mean, there's
it's a
evil,
whole
and
different
then there's also evil. I mean, this guy's not a racist.
Right.
Also, it's kind of like it is weird why, because the mask does work, and it's never really a scary mask, but it does work. It's a weird.
I think because like that mask existed before the movie did. Like that was in like Halloween stores and stuff like that, or drugstores, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think that more so, you know, because like even Jason Voorhees, like, yeah, it's just a hockey mask, but there's only one Jason, like this big, brooding, alien-looking thing. I think the fact that like it's a costume that we could see in a Walgreens before the movie even came out lended to this idea that like, oh my God, it could be anybody.
Totally. Yeah. And it was like a generic, whatever it was, the Scream, a ghost, whatever it was supposed to be. I'm
sure Bob Weinstein was like watching his brother scream at a 22-year-old assistant from Miramax and being like, my brother's why don't we just fucking carbon date Harvey's face and put him, that's way scarier than fucking Ghostface. He's way scarier.
I mean, truly scarier than anything in this movie.
There's originally rated NC-17.
Because of the gore?
Yeah, well, I think originally Scream was going to be called Scary Movie.
Which is funny, that
Ironic.
Scary Movie then, yeah. And then Courtney Cox and David Arquette met and fell in love on this film.
Yes.
Scary Movie, they changed it. They also they changed it to the Michael and Janet Jackson song, which again, although I will say Scream is a better movie than the documentary Leaving Neverland. Leaving Neverland is still scarier. That's my big.
That's fair. Yeah, it's not perfect. Leaving Neverland is not perfect, but it's scarier. Yeah.
Yeah.
not perfect.
Those kids were hoping Michael Jackson was going to take off a mask the whole time. But
Yep.
no.
Oh man! Instead, he could just take off his nose because remember when he died, he had like a prosthetic nose.
That's true.
So much plastic surgery,
Hey, look. Black people get Michael Jackson, we get Woody Allen. As far as pedophiles, we're allowed to defend. That's how it
and
works.
we get a lot of people too.
Yeah, we get a couple, I guess. All right, so the cast: Sidney Prescott, Neve Campbell, Gail Weathers, Courtney Cox, Billy Loomis, Skeet Ulrich, who looks like he's in a Calvin Klein ad the whole time. Randy is Jamie Kennedy, Deputy Dewey, David Arquette, Casey Drew Barrymore, Stewart, in my opinion, the MVP of this movie.
Fuck yeah.
Matthew Lillard, Principal Arthur Henry Winkler, Cotton Weary, Liev Schreiber, Kenny the cameraman, W. Earl Brown, which if you're a Deadwood fan, you know him from there.
And if you're there's something about Mary, he also plays the brother.
And Hacks.
Have you seen My Baseball? Mhm.
Gotta love our character.
Oh, he's great in
actors
Hacks.
on this
I love
show.
him.
Tatum, Rose McGowan, and our criminally underappreciated Ghostface voice, Roger Jackson, who I kind of feel bad for because apparently he would be on set, but he wasn't allowed to meet the other actors.
Yeah,
so
didn't they keep him in a closet or something?
They kept him in the closet, but
Yeah, like Chrissy from Three's Company.
but do you think that was real, or do you think like he's just like we just don't? Roger's just gonna like ask him for real work and like on-screen work, so let's just say we're doing it for.
Yeah, they probably had already shot the whole movie. They were just showing him like footage they already had. Like, yeah, it's going on in the other room. Just record the voiceover. No, it's all happening at the same time. Yeah.
He's one of those really desperate, clingy, like, hey, party of 5, more like party of 6. You bring old Roger in, am I right, Neve? No? All right, I'll sit alone and have my pasta salad.
Yeah. No. We got to keep the illusion alive. We got to keep. They'll be scared of your voice. I guess. I don't know. Go over in the other room.
And that's the
does he
reason I
look
can't
like
go to
in
your
person?
barbecue this weekend, Roger.
Roger, I'm gonna look him up.
He
I
looks
want to see what
exactly how you think he's going to look.
he's like. Yeah,
You know, he looks exactly
Roger Jackson.
how you think he's going to
Okay,
look.
keep taking it. I'm looking him up.
You know, he looks like a retired porn actor. All voice actors look like retired porn
Oh
actors.
my! Oh my!
Yeah, but was I right?
Oh my goodness! Yes.
Oh my god.
He also
All right.
looks like
Great for an audio podcast guy to
yeah.
Google image.
Everybody,
Roger
I
Corman's
urge
face.
you to Google Roger
right.
L. Jackson.
So the film begins with 17-year-old Casey Becker answering a phone call with a man on the other end who says he has the wrong number, but he keeps calling again. At first, it's like kind of flirty. Casey, but then he quickly becomes hostile and making threats against Casey's life. He explains that if Casey can answer this horror trivia game, she and her boyfriend Steve, who she originally
turns
said
on the
she
back
didn't,
lights
say
and-
she had a boyfriend, but now she's
right. Well, she's
flirting.
she sees him in the backyard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Their killer reveals Casey's boyfriend is tied up, and so the patio, she gets a quick question, who's the killer? And Friday the 13th, the man on the other end doesn't say if it's the series of the first film, so she just comes out and says Jason, but it's his
Mother.
Mrs. Voorhees. When
Yep.
she turns in the patio lights back on, she finds Steve has been disemboweled, which is a great image because this immediately. Another reason I love this movie, they know what to show and what not to show because if you like showed this death, it would be not scary.
You would also
It just
probably
be
know
kinda
there were two
gross.
people
He'd be
that
like
did it.
crouched under, like like by the pool, like, just 'cause you're trying to get like a fucking grill to work or something like that.
Yeah. The aftermath. The aftermath is what's gross. It's too human.
shocking.
Otherwise, it's too like, oh, this takes a significant amount of effort. Like he's going to be there for a while.
Yeah, that's the thing about like the one thing about slasher like it usually takes a lot. Now I sound like a weirdo, but it takes a lot longer to kill somebody usually. So,
No, it's pretty quick, the turnaround between
they
him
always get him,
having
like-
his organs and not. Like they, that shot. Dan, are
she's
you okay?
yeah, I'm good. Why?
Okay.
Why? I was gearing up. No, I'm
Oh,
good.
good.
I love Sam's chair. I used to have that chair back in my LA house, Sam. Again, another visual reference to an audio medium.
It's a good show.
That's where he has a leather chair, you guys.
Yeah. Did you did you know anything about this movie when you first went to go see it, or did you know she was out, like she was going to be gone by the time
No.
you went to go see this?
No, I don't remember. No, I probably came out in 1996. I probably would have seen it on video the first time I saw it. I doubt I saw it in theaters.
Yeah.
But no, because I would have been like 12 or 13. So I think that it wasn't spoiled. Or if it was like just not on my radar.
Yeah, I think I was the same way.
No, I saw it in the theater. I think I was in '96. I was either junior or senior, but I remember seeing it, and people lost their shit after she dies, because you do think, watching this, oh, it's Drew Barrymore, which was also kind of a pleasant surprise. I mean, you saw her in the trailer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I believe it's her face on the poster.
It's totally her face. Like, it's like
It's her
even,
face.
Even when it's the whole cast, like Drew Barrymore's the center picture.
And you're like, Casey's gonna live. And oh, poor Steve. And then when she dies and she's on the phone with her mom and having her last breath, I mean, people erupted. Like, people went nuts.
Plus, it's like that, like, sort of archetype now of that, cold open, shock kill is something we're used to because there's been 6 Scream movies, but it seemed like we were setting up the story that we were going to follow Drew Barrymore on. Right. And so the fact that it ended just like that, it's like 2 things. Number one, instantly you realize, like, oh, there is no safe game. Anybody could go at any time. And also, the fact that we're like gutting people and they're bleeding out in front of their parents and stuff. We're going, oh, okay, we're going all the way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's also like, it's bizarre watching this now because Drew Barrymore has had like 4 different career stages of like child actor to like sex symbol to then rom-com girl to now TV host. And I was like, how have they not done the cut where like she picks up the phone and then somebody just ADRs, Drew, this is the Writers Guild. We hear you. We hear you having post-production. She's like, please don't take my career away. Yeah, but it ends with, the parents getting home. They're trying to find the daughter. She tries to escape, but then gets, knifed in the throat, so she can't talk. And the end of the movie is wonderful. It's just an image of a gutted Drew. I was also thinking it would be
End of her scene.
Yeah, it would have been a funny negotiation in the Writers Guild if like the Writers Guild are like, okay, no more AI except Drew. You can replace Drew with any AI. So like in this movie, it's now just like Sonic the Hedgehog just to fuck with Drew Barrymore. Like they just like. But anyway, we're over it now. We're all happy now, and Drew, I'd love to work on your show. Just to let you know, I'm totally in on it.
Drew, I'd love to book the guests for your show. There you go. I work in casting, Sam.
Who was your biggest crush in this movie, Sam, when you were watching it?
Rose McGowan. For sure, Rose McGowan. Yeah.
Yeah.
In that era,
so hot.
Yeah, in that era, I thought, I was like, oh my God, she was like unbelievable.
She was slamming then. I think, is that also when she was dating Marilyn Manson and wore like that naked dress? She's basically just in like a fishnet to like the MTV Awards. Yeah. I have to tell you guys something. I had a huge crush on Henry Winkler in this movie. Originally I thought
now you know how she ended up with me, folks.
Exactly. I thought that he was originally, because you have that like who's who of like, is it this person, is it that person, his voice sounds like the voice on the other end, but I was like, oh, I hope it's not, because he's so sexy in this and mean.
It's so weird.
I know.
That's weird.
And I'm like,
that is a weird crush.
it's weird.
You have steamy beefcake Skeet Ulrich walking
I never
around.
was
You have Leif Schreiber with long hair. There's so many hot options.
Yeah.
No, it would have been Henry, not David Arquette, too goofy.
Yeah, you have like goofy hot dude, you have hot dude, you have like bad hot dude, and then you have Henry Winkler.
Yeah, and he's Henry Winkler. He's not the Fonz.
No.
He's definitely Henry
one thing
Winkler.
He's 100% Henry Winkler. Yeah.
See, that's a movie. They always talk about Freddy versus Jason, but Freddy versus Jason versus the Fonz. That's something that I would want to see.
I would love to see that, actually.
Hey, let me tell you, none of these chicks is sleeping around me, Freddy. Hey. All right, that's enough of that. Some interesting things, too, is the house they filmed this in was directly across the street from the house they filmed Cujo. We then cut to Sydney Prescott, who she's wearing like kind of like a fucking
it's
like
a
Little House on the Prairie
Yeah,
dress.
it's like one of those things that like every girl I think had at some point in our adolescence, of just like a little cotton nightgown without being skanky and slutty. It was not lingerie. It was like a nightie.
Yeah, I always had a huge crush on her because she was like the good girl. But then what's her name? Who was the other one? Jennifer Love Hewitt came on that show, and I was like, God damn.
No, she can't. They can't compete.
They can't compete. But Skeet Ulrich comes in as Billy Loomis, which is also a Halloween Easter egg. It's based on Donald Pleasance, and Donald Pleasance, the Dr. Loomis character. I think like the reason like rewatching this whole movie, like I was more like, of course the opening scene's awesome, but like the first couple scenes where they kind of get going are done so well, and I think that's kind of what makes it a perfect movie. It's not like everyone thinks about like, you know, like it's like, oh, Jaws, you think about the girl, you know, getting killed in the water, but like really like the most fun thing about like the things that make Jaws so special are like, you know, when they're like debating what to do with the shark, and then all the townspeople are just talking about, oh, we've got to do stuff. It's just there's just a realism to it, and I think that's the thing about this movie and Wes Craven, you know, whether it's putting like the Richard Gere jokes in, stuff like that. It feels very of its time and very important.
Yeah. And like, and I think that's why like they do such a good job in it of, to me, like New Nightmare, which is sort of the predecessor, right? I think like the reason that didn't do as well is because it's so industry. Like when they start making movies about movies, it's just like, because they're in the industry, this stuff is so industry that they don't realize that everyday people are like, I don't get any of these jokes. I don't care about the movie industry. Like I don't know what you're doing. So, and
it's also just becomes like that movie becomes too meta. It's almost like, I don't know if you're a Stephen King guy. Are you a Stephen King guy at all?
Yeah, I mean, not like hardcore, but like I appreciate Stephen King.
In later books, he like puts himself in like the Dark Tower series and shit like that.
Yeah,
and just kind of like
he does.
Yeah, he's a character.
As Stephen King?
He's like
God.
magical. Like
he done lost it. Like, that's just fucking insane. You've had enough success. Like, go retire. You're a wonderful man. Live in Maine. I can't believe that.
His wife, too, must be like pissed about, like, she reads the chapter where he shows up, and she's like, really? This is why we couldn't go to Marco Island?
So scared, yeah.
So you could square off against Pennywise in a fantasy land. All right, so
yeah, the dad comes in and he hides. Billy hides. It's apparent that, you know, they are boyfriend and girlfriend, or dating at least. Very intimate at first. And then dad comes in, says he's going on a trip. Bye-bye. That's it. That's all we see of him at that moment. And she gives a little PG shot of her
shows a titty.
boob. Her breast, her titty, and that's it. And then the next scene we cut to is school.
Yeah, the next
and
day,
everyone's finding out.
This
about
is when
Casey.
we're starting. This is like what we know the movie for. It's like they're starting to, you know, we see the friend group together, and we see the friend group kind of like fucking around with one another, and you know, it's funny too. I think the reason that kids like we all like with every great movie, like they're like, I feel like in this movie there was like so many people like me and other guys who like wanted to be the Jamie Kennedy type after this. 'Cause we're all like we're used to like looking at that guy as like the comic book guy, where it's like, oh, it's just even though that's probably honestly how I look now, which is sad.
The guy from The Simpsons.
The Simpsons. Yeah. But we see this guy and we're like, oh, that's like something I could be now. Like that could be my identity. You know, I'm not good at sports. I'm not like a theater kid. So I'll be the
movies.
I'm the movie guy, which I didn't know was that. If that really was, that's like the first kind of new character this movie introduces.
I also feel like everything his character says, everything's like a high stake. There's so much intensity when he's talking to people about everything.
Yeah.
So when he's going over the rules, and he's like, you know, even when he says to Stuart, like, you used to date Casey, you know, like, maybe it's you. And he's like, how do we know it's not you? Like, it's back and forth. I think Jamie Kennedy's great in this movie. He was fun.
He is great.
He is great in this movie. In this movie.
Well, next week we're gonna review Son of the Mask. So,
well, that's
which I mean, Mask 2 is a better. Just call it Mask 2, guys.
Yeah.
Son of the Mask. That never works. That hasn't worked since like the MGM horror movies. But yeah, so just to speed up to try to get past some of the plot here. So Sidney Prescott, we know that she's like mourning her mother's death. There was a murder a year ago. Her mother was murdered by this guy named Cotton Weary.
Gotten weary.
I love that name.
Who I guess she saw him, leaving the scene or something. So she's the person who kind of fingered him for it. But the next night she's trying to go to Tatum's house. She gets a call. It's the killer. He tries to attack her. She gets away. Again, she runs up the stairs. She goes upstairs. She sees Skeet Ulrich, Billy Loomis, come into the window to try to, comfort her. But then the phone drops from his jacket.
The cell phone. The
cell
old school
phone.
flip phone.
Old school cell phone. So now we think, hey, is he the killer? This takes us to the police precinct where he's being, interviewed with his dad. And Sydney leaves, in a huff. She runs into Gail Weathers, who kind of confronts her about,
Gail Weathers, who's the reporter, played by
Courtney
Cox.
And she punches her out.
Because of the coverage that she did during the mom's murder, the trial, and everything. Also, I just want to point out, Skeet comes in through that window twice, and it's almost like a jump scare when he does, and it's always after we've seen the killer. And so when he comes in, at first you're like, oh, he can't be the killer. And then this time around, it's like every time the killer comes out, Skeet's there. Mm-hmm. He's somewhere to be found.
Yeah. Well, what's also interesting about this movie, I think, is like, especially with like the movies that it's celebrating, and I'll take Nightmare before Elm Street away from this, but whether it's Friday the 13th, Halloween, or Sleepaway Camp, or I feel like the movies it's better than the movies it's celebrating. Like there's certain things that it's like it even added things like before this was the Gail Weathers character. Was that like a staple in these type of movies? Because since then we look at the new the new Rob Zombie Halloween with Michael McDonald, and that's his version of that is kind of closer to Gail Weathers than the Donald Pleasance, and we've seen that kind of character show up. Then, I guess I just read this book Totem, which was like a werewolf book, and they kind of have the writer who's trying to expose stuff, but like the annoying writer publicity guy was that. I'm sure somebody can prove me wrong on our YouTube comments or something like that, but it feels like this movie makes as many tropes as it plays with them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think, to the first point, it is better, and a lot of that is because it's so thoughtful about all of the tropes. Like, a lot of those other movies, they weren't doing the tropes on purpose. That's just what they were doing, and a lot of them, they were just, like, copying each other. They weren't doing them in tribute to each other. This one is more like, well, how do we celebrate all that, like you said? But I also think, like, it goes back to you when you said it was so of the time that there was this thing that, like, in 1996, media was just kind of the beginning of that super sensationalization of all this stuff. And I think that's where, like, Gail Weathers really fits into, like, talk show culture, entertainment report. Like, I feel like that was just really starting to kick into high gear, and that's why she was such an important part.
And I even think with this movie, like they brought up the fact that like I guess caller ID increased like 400 times after this movie, like it put caller ID on the map. But part of me wonders like how many more film majors there were after this movie. Seeing like Jamie Kennedy talk about because it almost because I remember like. I think this was the first time in high school and middle school where I like heard people were going to school for film. Yeah. And like that was never a fucking thing before this.
Really?
No,
I don't think in the same way.
To like study it.
To
you mean
study.
Versus, like directing.
To study it. And then to have like almost like film majors ideas of what the best movies were rather than just, the whoever won the Oscar that year or something like that,
Yeah, and the idea that, like you said, like the new comic book nerd is the movie geek, and that Blockbuster, like there are those kids that work in Blockbuster and rent out tapes every single weekend and become like aficionados of like genre, and that you don't have to just go through, Citizen Kane and like the absolute classics and like it's on like the AFI list or whatever. You can take this popularized stuff and go like, no, we can be ultra analytical about it.
Yeah.
Which is, the whole movie is that for, I think, this sort of slasher genre that that hadn't been appreciated like that before.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So we get back to the school. Sydney, Loomis has returned because she got a call, when she was at her friends from the killer. So, he makes the point, well, it can't be him because he was from, and they get into a fight in the hallway about it. She then gets chased by the killer again. The school itself has been completely turned upside down. Their schools went out early that day. There's going to be a curfew.
Right.
Clearly everything has broken down in this town, and they're really smart with this movie because even the little bit of even the little time that Henry Winkler is on screen,
Sexy Henry Winkler.
Sexy Henry Winkler. My wife is just flicking that bean, just rubbing it out like a goddamn scratch off lotto ticket. But we're watching this movie, and you see all the close-ups of Henry Winkler and him holding a knife, and it makes you forget about Billy Loomis because they have Henry Winkler act so balls to the wall and crazy. You're like, okay, well, is he going to be like the Jason's mom? Is that the angle?
Yeah, you think he's the killer, and he's also so mean to the kids. He's always yelling at them, to go to class, and screaming at them, and he's not a nice, warm, fuzzy.
It must have been a fun role for him.
Maybe that's what I loved about it. He was so campy and mean.
Yeah, we also get Linda Blair in it for 2 seconds.
She plays another reporter. Mm-hmm.
She's kind of dressed like one of the Night at the Roxbury characters.
She does. She's also, and then of course Wes Craven makes an appearance as Freddy Krueger. He's the janitor, dressed like Freddy Krueger.
He was really nervous, which I think which is why Wes Craven was kind of known as a cool guy, but compared to, but he didn't want that line about all the other Nightmare on Elm Street sucking because he thought that was just going to make him look completely egotistical and narcissistic. Right. And he is kind of right, but it's such a true thing that most of those movies suck that no one took that away from it,
Yeah.
So, we get another video store scene, which, by the way, my best friend Matt Smilkstein in high school, he was in a video store. That was the greatest, man. Hank. I just watching I think that was my favorite part watching this movie again, is just being oh God, I remember having nothing to do on a fucking Saturday afternoon and just going to the movie store and hoping we got weed, It was just it was such a wonderful suburban little time capsule. But Matthew Lillard's character, Stu, has decided because, school's been canceled in honor of this, he's going to throw a banger at his house. The third act, this is such a great third act. And really, I mean, it's pretty amazing. I guess this third act in itself was something 20 days to film.
Yeah, 21 days they said. And that entire scene, which we'll get to in the garage, was 2 days, I think. Yeah. With Rose.
Well, even watching it, you forget in your mind's eye, you kind of separate the movie into 3 acts, but you kind of forget that party starts fairly early into the movie. You're just kind of getting going. And then they get to the party and you forget that it's just a ride from there on out. You're going straight all the way till the end from the time you walk into the door, which is really pretty rare that you would devote that kind of time and just ramp up, up until you get the big pop at the end.
Well, it's always with scary. I think all great scary movies where it's build, crazy. And then once you realize Kathy Bates is crazy in Misery, that's it. Once the bandages off, we're not trying to hide the ball anymore.
Right.
I think we forgot one part when prior to the party, Sydney is staying at Tatum and Dewey's house, and they get a call from there. While she gets a call, they're the mother's oh, Sydney, someone's on the phone for you. And it ends up being one of the killers saying Billy Loomis is not the killer.
Yeah, that's what I said. Well, he comes back to school the next day because call.
Sorry, I had a small stroke,
it's okay.
Sam.
It's hard for any woman to pay attention to me for too long.
You mumble a lot.
Completely before I mumble, yeah. All right, so they start coming to the party. Our first death is the doggy door scene. Great,
Which,
Dad.
by the way, so great. And I read something, I don't know, Sam, if it was the same thing that we were reading, but Rose McGowan was so skinny and she kept falling out of the door and they needed her to get stuck because she could easily just crawl through it. And they ended up nailing her shirt to the door so that she would stay. And that really was brought up and down. She said it was freezing, hence why she has hard nipples.
Wow.
So,
well, I think it went to benefit the
you go.
film.
Yeah.
I think so.
Hopefully that's the reason. It wasn't like a jump cut to Harvey Weinstein, like turning
Oh,
the air up
God.
every 2 seconds.
Going by her with like ice cubes.
Yeah, you
He's
okay?
like, "Oh, are you hot?
You okay?
Oh, let's cool those off."
But she gets crushed to this doggy door.
Which is such a great. I mean,
Great.
it's so great.
Oh, it's great. Meanwhile, Gail Weathers and I believe her camera guy, which was, let me get his name again. I think it's Kenny. Kenny the cameraman.
But wait, I heard that that actor gained like 20 pounds to do that role because in the script there were all the fat jokes were in the script, but he wasn't that fat when he got cast.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So he
interesting.
just gained a ton of weight, probably had the best time ever doing it, so that they could leave all the fat jokes in the script.
And then I guess he just stayed big because everything else I've seen him in, he's like, you know what?
This works.
This is how I'm going to start booking things.
Yeah.
I got to get that.
He was on set watching probably fucking Courtney Cox eat like a sheath of lettuce.
Yeah,
being
with
like,
no dressing.
Supporting
on it.
fine.
Yeah.
Supporting is fine.
Maybe a character
I'll be fine.
actor. I'll be a character
Oh, yeah,
actor.
that's what they say. You either lose 10 pounds or you gain 10 pounds.
Right.
It's like you're either the fat guy or the skinny guy.
Or
no in
you're me
between.
and you gain 50. And you just hope people still think it's funny.
Hollywood doesn't want him. I'm sorry.
Right. I'm trying to be the brave Matt Rife, guys. Okay.
The Matt Rife
That's
who
what I am. I'm brave Matt Rife.
eats Taco Bell at 3
It's Taco
a.m.
Bell at 3
Yep.
a.m. We get this is like some of the most fun stuff in the movie. Obviously, happens here. Not even in sense of deaths, but we also get Randy or Jamie Kennedy telling all the stories of the horror movie, all the rules of the horror movie, and we have Matthew Lillard go, "I'll be right back," which I guess
you're
they
not
kind of
supposed to say.
you're not supposed to say because he does die, but
Yeah.
also Courtney Cox says, "I'll be right back," and then she's fine. So. We get to a crescendo when we find out the principal is dead. He's hanging from the goalposts at the football field. So they run out, which again, this principal death was added on because one of the things the Weinsteins, they're like, not enough people die in the beginning, which they were right about.
Yeah.
Hey man, they're good producers.
I mean, there was a reason that they made successful films. It's just one of them is a sex pest nightmare.
Well, sex more than pest.
I
yeah.
mean, sex, pervert,
Sex, predator.
rapist.
That's
He's
a predator.
He's a rapist.
He's
yeah.
convicted. Yeah, he's dying in jail.
I was talking about Bob. Poor Bob.
Poor Bob.
Bob's
Where's
like,
Bob right now?
Fuck Bob. He probably knew all the shit
Oh,
that
he
was
definitely
going
knew.
on.
Yeah.
Come
Well, he's going to be on
man.
our podcast next week.
Yeah,
folks.
we're gonna talk to him.
We're going to do Paddington 2. Which is what is. All right.
So they all run. All the kids are like, "Oh my God, he's dead. Let's go see."
Meanwhile, Sydney has decided to finally, and then this is why the rules don't matter. Sydney finally decides to have sex with Billy upstairs, and then she brings up the fact after they have sex, wait, you could have made the call from jail. And I can't watch this scene anymore just because I keep thinking of the Scary Movie scene, Sam. Have you seen the Scary Movie scene where they finally fuck, and then, of course, like, Sara hasn't seen it yet, but the guy who plays Skeet Ulrich shoots a load and she gets stuck to the fucking ceiling of the room. Anna Faris, man, is so great.
I love her. Oh, so good.
I think people look at like the parody movie genre as like cheeseball now, and it's like straight to DVD or whatever. But like, man, the first at least 2, if not 3 Scary Movies are like incredible.
Right. And they kept making money. I mean, now we just know it because now we think of like, all the like Avengers Farce Wars, which was the one they made with like Shawn Michaels as Yoda, which is terrible. But like, there's a lot of really there's a lot of really good stuff. But anyway, she starts confronting him. He gets upset. Then the killer comes out of nowhere, stabs, quote unquote, stabs in air quotes, folks, stabs Billy Loomis. She then jumps out the window, lands on the boat, and she sees, her best friend, hanging from the doggy door. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of, I guess like Sam said, we're off to the races. She ends up running into Gail Weathers.
Gail wants to go inside.
Yeah, she wants to go inside. She ends up going with Deputy Dewey, and then
because they've been flirting. She's been doing that thing that pretty women do, where she knows he has an interest in her, so she's using it to her advantage to get what she needs.
Wait, you guys know when that happens?
Yes.
Fuck. My whole life plan has been completely thwarted.
That's how women marry rich men and don't sign prenups. They know exactly how to get what they want.
This is where Kenny is. Also, I guess Dewey was such a hit during this filming that he was supposed to die off in this movie, but I guess test audiences loved him so much that they went for reshoots. They went back and they put Dewey in
the stretcher,
into
so he's alive.
So he's alive. Kind of gives the thumbs up,
right?
But we get to the climax of the movie where the cameraman's killed, and Neve Campbell and Randy are kind of trying to come back into the house. We see Skeet Ulrich is still alive, and then he said, and then finally our first killer's revealed when he uses the Anthony Perkins psycho line of "We all go a little mad sometimes," and he shoots Jamie Kennedy. By the way, we just watched Psycho. Does not do wonders for Skeet Ulrich's acting. This is the only thing. Watching him do this, you're like, and then you see Anthony Perkins, and you're like, yeah, there's a difference between actors.
Their craft is handled much differently, for sure.
If there's anything in this movie that's cringe at all, and there isn't.
No.
But that line, a little.
Because he says it.
Because
if anybody else, I feel like if Matthew Lillard said it, it would kind of be, all right, he could get there.
He could get away with it.
Because he's such a fucking wackadoo this whole movie.
He's great in it.
Skeet is really playing the same character he played in The Craft to me. Like, Dan was like, why don't you think he doesn't act anymore? Or doesn't do as much. I mean, he's still acting. So his agents don't email me and be mean. But
wait for that email to you after the show. Actually, Skeet's still very much working.
Yeah, his avail is.
He just got called in for Rust reshoots. It's like some real sad project.
He's playing the gun. Yeah, I just don't think he was ever really any different than how he is in person. He seems to just play himself.
Well, he plays Billy Loomis in Scream 5 and Scream 6.
That's true. Here's who he plays. He plays hot guy who thinks he's interesting.
Like Johnny Depp in Nightmare on Elm Street. But Johnny Depp is actually, okay, God, I keep bringing up problematic people that were once.
Well, he got proven. He's going a bunch of money. He's back doing, they're going to do a new Pirates, baby.
True, but at least Johnny Depp had a little bit more substance, I think.
By the way, him coming back in Pirates will not be as fun as everyone thinks it's going to be, because he's going to be 70 years old, and it's mostly just going to be him drooling into the microphone.
Yeah, and human shit all around him.
People forget, he's still an alcoholic. He may not have done all that shit, but he's still a pretty bad alcoholic.
I just him being on the set drooling into the microphone. Why are you... They're not supposed to even see the microphone, Johnny. Get away from the microphone.
It's all right. It's all right. I brought this one from home. I bring it everywhere. It's my emotional.
He's pulling the
emotional
boom
support
mic down.
microphone.
He's pulling the boom.
Please, I bring it here. I bring it here. It's the only thing that makes me safe. It makes me know Amber's not here. That's the thing with Johnny Depp. I've been saying this on stage, but whatever accent he's using isn't real. No, that's not a real voice. I've never. It's like a wizard explaining a failed experiment in Harry Potter. That's what always is just like abracadabra, Amber shit is everywhere. It doesn't make any sense. But anyway. Back to Billy Loomis, and the reason that I think that Matthew Lillard is the MVP of this movie is that all the cheesy shit that Skeet Ulrich says in this is immediately bought back by whatever Matthew Lillard says. So, every time that, Skeet Ulrich tries to be a badass, then you have him throwing the phone at Matthew Lillard and being like, "You threw a phone at me, dick!"
I love that.
All this really funny stuff. Because without Matthew Lillard there, it just becomes every other fucking horror movie.
Yeah, and it also first of all, a lot of that stuff was ad-libbed, which is insane, right? on Matthew Lillard's part, but it also like humanizes the whole experience. Like it's not, if it were just Billy, then it would be like, oh, is this like the horror villain? But because it's both of them, you're like, oh, these are just two idiot high school kids, right? Like Matthew Lillard like reminds you like, oh, these guys have no idea what they're doing.
Well, because right now you don't have to preserve the mystery anymore. So it's like...
Right.
It's like, let's just have as much fun with the premise as possible.
Right.
And, Matthew Lillard is actually... He's a really good actor. Have you ever seen the movie The Descendants with George Clooney?
Yeah, he's great in it. Yeah.
He's great.
That's right. He's
very different.
so
He's
good.
just a guy who fucks somebody, and he's embarrassed, and he's like... You could tell he's uncomfortable, and he's just a normal... totally different than this. So.
Yeah.
He definitely makes the whole movie, because you would think Jamie Kennedy, being his comedy background, would have been sort of the comic relief.
No, he's way
but
funnier
it's
than Jamie Kennedy in this.
Stu is so
Stu
fucking...
is funny
And
in
then he
this.
stabs him, and he's like, I think you hit like a main like organ.
I guess originally he went in for Billy Loomis, and he read with Neve Campbell. And then the producers were just like, yeah, we can't have this guy making out with Neve Campbell.
and she and Skeet had done The Craft together, so I'm sure that they had a little chemistry from that set.
Well, we know what Miss Olaka's thinking
Excuse
about
me,
this
Sam,
evening.
you can't see, but I have a blanket on my lap and it's moving rapidly.
We're getting the loofah and the Dove chocolate tonight. We got some fun going on. All right. I don't know what that was. Was that gross, Paventa? I apologize. It was fun. Paventa was upset.
Well, so we have okay, so she now knows they're the killer. They're going to blame it on her dad because the cell phone the burner phone that they did, and they got it from her father's phone number.
That's the only.
And the dad's missing, by the way. No one can find the dad. Remember, he's not at the hotel.
That's the only. The only pushback I'll have is that like. But it doesn't really matter because they don't have the. It's like this plan wasn't going to work. Like they already beat the shit out of the dad. He's got like a gigantic shiner. No one's going to think that. I don't know. That's the
I don't
only
know.
thing.
The
I don't think it
viewers, the
matters.
audience fears that because in the beginning when the dad's missing and you're like, who the fuck is doing this? You don't know it's two people until they are together and they say it because you're like, how is this guy getting from place to place? And you never do see the dad. She can't find the dad.
Well, I'm just saying with like DNA, they would have been like, well, this.
Oh yes,
I don't know.
DNA. But we're in a
Like
horror
these-
movie. No one's taking this to the crime lab. Like we're sticking to.
Well, I am, Sarah. I'm going to the crime lab with my potions and
People-
test tubes. Sorry, Sam.
People did not care about DNA in 1996. Like
No one-
OJ was 1996. They were like,
That's true.
we have the DNA. Everybody was like, what are you even talking about?
Yeah,
I
they're
don't-
like, but there's a glove that doesn't fit on his hand.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you mean? That's the real proof. He didn't do it.
Now, Sam brings up, I think, a great fantasy alt end where the third killer is revealed and it's OJ.
Hello.
He comes out,
Hello,
hey kids, I've been here the whole time. Nick and the Zucker brothers aren't returning my phone calls, so I figure maybe Wes Craven could. Man, it's really like. Have you seen those? I mean, obviously, you guys probably talked about this on the Jim and Sam show, but have you seen the OJ commenting on like, because now his whole thing is he comments on cases like the
On
Murdoch case
other murders,
and
yeah.
stuff like that.
Yes.
It's just hilarious because he's so political on it. Like
Yes.
he's so political where he's like, now look, in my mind, you're only guilty till a jury proves you guilty.
Right.
But there's some things that don't add up. Because he's like every hole he pokes in can easily be poked in his. So
He
he's
wrote
yeah.
a book called If I Did It, and this is how I would do it, where he basically talks about exactly what happened to Nicole Brown Simpson. He murdered her, and he's like, but I'm just saying if I did.
Hypothetically. Hypothetically.
speaking.
Well, here's a little, maybe a little thing we can drop for the pot. But I have a bit on this on my album, No Real Winners Here, where one of my esteemed relapses as a recovering alcoholic was at Michael Moore's Comedy Festival, where I ended up asking Sinbad to buy me crack. That's a story you can get on my No Real Winners Here. But when I was getting drunk and getting hammered, I was on this tiny plane with Michael Moore and Tig Notaro, and I chugged. And I never put this in the bit, but I was like chugging vodka because I fucking hate turbulence. And then I get that drunk, and then that level of drunk where you finally relax into it. And hey, I'm describing what being an alcoholic is. And then all of a sudden, I just turn to Michael Moore, and he goes, I don't think OJ did it. I think it was the son.
Who said that? Michael
Moore. I swear to God.
I want to see that bowling for Columbine.
Well,
I want to see him investigate.
Yeah, I was
who
like,
killed.
I also had like walking pneumonia, and I was on benzo, and I was just like, all right, well, let's talk about that. But I remember when he said that, I was like, oh, so this is why you stopped being taken seriously. I was like, this little tidbit here. But that would be hilarious if Michael Moore, this new movie is proving OJ didn't do it.
That'd be awesome.
Oh my God.
They still go to Charlton Heston's house at the end of it, and they blame it on him. He's been dead for fucking 10 years.
Yeah, he's gone. I think we should wrap up though how it ends. Like the actual kill is that Gail Weathers
the actual kill
comes back and kills Billy because Stu's now dead because a TV got thrown on top of him by Sydney.
She shoots him in the head.
But in the Scream universe, there's a lot of debate. You know,
Wait, what do you mean?
That since Scream 3, people have said, Stu, we never saw a dead body. We never saw a toe tag.
Mm-hmm.
That like starting with, apparently there was a draft of the script for Scream 3
That's what I read.
that I think Kevin Williamson did, which they didn't use, that Stu was alive in. And ever since then, especially with the new sequels, like Scream 5 and big time in Scream 6, people were heavy with the Stu's still alive, Stu's still alive. I think there was a little Easter egg in Scream 6 that it was like, this is the TV that fell on Stu, but that's all they really had from his autopsy. I mean, I think that
they'll bring it back. They'll put him in the 7th movie. They have to.
But then they would also have to justify why in decades, we've had all these movies, nobody mentioned once that Stu's been alive this entire time. It's been so long. How
He was
would
having
he be in
Hawaii.
jail? Wouldn't he be in jail if he were alive though?
he would be, but
Yeah.
wouldn't it have come up? Hey, Stu's in jail, by the way. Like,
Or he faked his death.
They could do the Halloween thing like they did with HGO and just replace I switched the body out for like somebody else. I don't know. They could do
Light the body
I mean,
on
look,
fire.
man, I'm not a fan of the new movies. Like I love the original, and the new movies I just think are kind of like, it's just hard, man. It's a hat on a hat. All these movies are just a hat on a hat, you know? Because the reason that, like, in my mind, Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street sequels are better than Scream sequels is because Scream already did the weird thing in the first movie. So everything, like I said before, every weird thing is just going to kind of feel convoluted and added on. And the whole, like, the whole dissection of film, like, you're just never going to get as interesting as it was in that first one. And then it becomes, and then you're like, and then Sam, it's like you're saying, it's like, okay, so you either bring Stu back or you like make them to say, you have to like connect it to the family again to make the original audience happy, but that's not really ever what the movie was about. That was never the draw of the movie, was like who's connected to who. Skeet Ulrich's, we find out that Skeet Ulrich's dad was having an affair with Sydney's mom. But like that's like, they kind of even like, they're like, yeah, is that enough motive for you? Like they even like throw that away. Like it's the fun. The game is what makes this movie.
It's also a funny, if you think about it, there are so many lines in here that are actually funny, like written as funny and played funny. And so it's an entertaining horror movie where most horror movies are very grounded and they want to scare you. This, you were kind of like, oh, that's funny. Oh, that's okay. It disarms you enough. And then they fucking kill, and you're like, oh shit, I'm watching a horror movie. That's right.
To be fair, that's why you see the sequels. Is like you kind of want to be like, oh well, are they going to do at least like something, fun here with it? But in your opinion, Sam, am I being too harsh? Is there a sequel you think that like? What do you think is the best Scream sequel? Do you like all the sequels?
I love the sequels. I think.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I love franchises in general.
Yeah.
I love the longer movies. I just saw 10. It was great. Like I
heard it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
It is good.
I heard this one is good. Yeah.
It's probably it's top 3 Saw movies for sure. And the first Saw movie is like unbelievable.
It's the greatest.
The first Saw movie might be in that perfect movie category.
I heard the Chris Rock one was rough. I never saw it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of rough Saw movies. A lot of really rough Saw movies. But like for me, there's there's zero bad Scream movies. Like in every franchise, it's like
Even Scream 3, they
It's
kind
the
of had to
worst.
redo because of Columbine.
Scream 3 is the worst for sure.
Yeah.
Like for me, I think I go 1, 5, 2, 6, 4, 3. I think.
Yeah, I think. Well, 3, it's like they're doing the making of the movie, and
Yeah,
Yeah, it's too meta.
it's just too meta. Though Parker
Yeah.
Posey's kind of fun in it.
I love Parker. I mean,
Yeah.
and anything. She's great.
Yeah, have you been able to? And over the years, because of radio, did you ever get to interview Wes Craven at all?
No, I saw him speak once in Syracuse when I was going to school there, which was cool just to see him there and everything. But I never interviewed him. I would have loved to.
Man, that must be such a sweet gig. Once you become like an excellent director, you just go to these colleges,
you
people
just
kiss
get
your
paid.
ass the whole fucking time.
It's like
Oh
when
my
you're
God.
a president of the United States, you can just go on speaking tours, and that'll.
Except it's even better because when you're president, there are people who don't like you. But if you don't like, he did Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream, and then also all the great stuff before those movies. But two, like, of the most important horror franchises to two different generations.
Yeah, and he never had like
that's
the
true.
Hitchcock rep of like Hitchcock making like locking people up on set at night and making them pee. You know,
Right.
there was never like that sort of thing, you know.
Right.
But anyway, great movie. I'll probably watch it again in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you like the series, Sam? Have you been watching the series at all?
The Scream TV series?
Well, it's over now, I think.
But
Yeah.
didn't they have? Yeah. Did you watch it?
It was like 2 seasons. I never saw it. Did you see it? Sam?
No, I didn't get into it. I would, though. I would go. I don't think I ever even gave it a chance.
I would watch that. That seems like that's right. Like I watched Bates Motel, and I was kind of like,
Yeah, you didn't like it.
I thought the acting was good, but I'm also kind of like, it like the way that Norman's mother played. She wasn't crazy enough. It just kind of like took the mystique out of it. But I think that this is one of those. It's like the Evil Dead series is pretty good. The Exorcist series is pretty good. Horror series, I somehow trust more than sequels, but
That's interesting.
whatever.
Yeah,
I'm
don't
a
watch-
fat guy with a beard. I like whatever. you know.
I watched Chucky. I've been watching Chucky.
Oh, it's great.
It's
Yeah.
great.
We watched the first season. We haven't got. We started
Same.
the second.
Same. I haven't. I don't even
First
think I
season's
started
great.
the second. First season's really
Oh yeah,
good.
the first season's great, and then the second season I think we started, and then we just sort of gave up.
My only thing with Chucky was because they bring back there's so many movies, and I love the Chucky sequels, but like there's also like they keep bringing back the lead guy, who was the kid who was Chucky's the first owner or whatever, and he just can't. He's just not the actor the rest of the time. Sorry,
Because
so,
he was
like,
a child actor whose
Yeah.
parents probably were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay."
Like the high school kids they brought for the series are like way better than
So
him. So
much
it's
better.
kind of like seeing the OG. Like it's almost like watching some guy win an acting contest. But it's still good, man. Sam, thank you. I know you're
Sam,
busy as
it's so
fuck,
good
so
to
thank
see
you
you.
so
Thank
much
you.
for coming on our show. Is there anything you'd like to promote, good sir?
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. Yeah, I think if you go over to my YouTube/NotSam, I've done like a bunch of. I do like a weekly show on Fridays, and as part of it, I've done a handful of specials where I've just sat there, and I mean these things take me like 2 hours plus, and I just recap full horror franchises. And I feel like I've done Scream, I did Saw, and I do the show with this kid Hot Dog, who hasn't seen any of these movies. So I'm trying to logically explain these full, 10+ year long stories, and honestly, sometimes just trying to make sense of them whatsoever. Like Halloween has like 6 different timelines that you
Right.
try to just add in. But yeah, I think your folks will like that. So go over to the Not Sam YouTube page and check that out.
It is hilarious because Sam, I love those YouTube shorts that you do. Like I watch a lot of those, and it's just so funny that Sam, somebody who's as insightful as it is still co-hosting a show with a guy named Hot Dog. That's comedy. That's comedy in general. We're just like, we go into it and name Hot Dog. Sauerkraut will be on next week. He's gonna give his opinion of Phantasm franchise.
I think it's important.
Yeah, it's very important. Anyway, buddy. All right, thanks so much. I really appreciate it, dude.
Thanks, Sam.